The galaxy was old. Thousands of species had risen among the stars, built empires, fought wars, and learned the hard lessons of survival. They had rules, they had traditions, and they had opinions about the strange new species called humans. Humans had joined the galactic community 300 years ago. In that time, they had spread across dozens of star systems. They built colonies on harsh worlds that other species avoided. They traded with everyone who would trade with them. They smiled at insults. They negotiated when attacked. They apologized for misunderstandings that were not their fault. The other species did not understand them. In the great halls of the Council of 12, alien diplomats would gather in private rooms and talk about the human problem. Not that humans were a problem. That was the strange part. Humans were too easy, too soft, too willing to bend. "They have no spine," said the ambassador one evening, his purple tentacles curling with amusement. "We blockaded their mining colonies for 6 months. 6 months. Any proper species would have sent warships. The humans sent negotiators. They actually thanked us when we lifted the blockade." The delegate clicked his mandibles in agreement. "We destroyed one of their agricultural stations. An accident officially. They knew it was not an accident. Everyone knew. But they accepted our payment and said nothing more. They even sent us a gift basket." "A gift basket," repeated and the room filled with strange alien laughter. This scene repeated itself across the galaxy. Species that had fought bloody wars to earn their place among the stars looked at humanity and saw only weakness. They saw a species that had somehow forgotten how to be strong. But not everyone agreed with this view. Elder of the Confederation was old even by the standards of his long-lived species. He had watched empires rise and fall. He had seen peaceful species pushed too far. He had witnessed the terrible things that happened when gentle beings finally broke. "You mock the humans," he said quietly during one of these gatherings. "You think their patience is cowardice. I am not so sure." The younger diplomats laughed at him. What did this old creature know? Humans were clearly a failed evolutionary line. Somehow they had developed intelligence and technology without developing proper aggression. They were an accident of nature, a species that would eventually be absorbed by stronger peoples. Elder said nothing more, but he watched, and he remembered. Ambassador knew exactly what the galaxy thought of her species. She had spent 40 years representing humanity on the galactic stage. 40 years of swallowed pride. 40 years of choosing careful words when she wanted to scream. She sat in her office on the diplomatic station, looking out at the stars. Her assistant, a young man named David, brought her the daily reports. "They crossed our border again," he said. 3 ships. They scanned one of our colony worlds and left." "Did they cause any damage?" "No, but the colonists are frightened. This is the 5th incursion this month." Nodded slowly. "Send a formal protest to the council. Request a meeting with the ambassador." David hesitated. "Ambassador, with respect, we have sent 47 formal protests about incursions. Nothing ever changes." "I know. The colonists are asking why we do not respond with force. They say we have the ships. They say we should defend ourselves." Turned to look at her young assistant. She saw the frustration in his eyes. She understood it. She felt it herself, burning in her chest every single day. "Do you know why we do not fight back, David?" "Because we are weak." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Because we are not ready, not yet." She stood and walked to the window. The stars stretched out forever, cold and beautiful. "Humanity is young," she said. 300 years among the stars. They have been here for 12,000 years. The for 8,000. The council races have spent building their fleets, their weapons, their alliances. We have spent 3 centuries. We are children playing in a garden full of wolves. So we just accept their insults, their attacks. For now, yes," placed her hand against the cold glass. "Every insult we accept buys us time. Every attack we do not answer lets us build another ship, train another soldier, develop another weapon. They think we are weak, David. Let them think it. Let them believe they have nothing to fear from humanity. Until did not answer for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was hard as iron. Until we are ready, and then God help anyone who stands against us. Across human space, this same quiet anger was growing. The older generation remembered Earth's fragility. They remembered how close humanity had come to destroying itself. They had vowed to be better among the stars, to prove that humans could choose peace over war. But the younger generation had grown up watching their parents bow their heads. They had watched aliens laugh at human diplomats. They had seen their colonies threatened, their ships harassed, their people treated as lesser beings. They did not feel patient, they felt angry. In the military academies of Earth and Mars and New Singapore, young officers studied alien tactics and dreamed of the day when humanity would finally stand tall. In secret research facilities, scientists developed weapons that the galaxy had never imagined. In hidden shipyards carved into asteroids and moons, engineers built vessels that appeared on no official record. The galaxy saw a peaceful species content with its small place among the stars. They did not see what was growing in the shadows. They did not notice the steel forming in human hearts. Elder noticed. The old watched humanity with growing concern. He saw the pattern. He recognized the signs. He had seen them before, long ago, when the gentle people finally turned on their tormentors. That war had killed 3 billion beings. He tried to warn the council. He spoke of humanity's hidden strength, of the danger in pushing them too far. The other delegates laughed at his fears. Humans were harmless. Humans were broken. Humans would never fight back. Hoped they were right. He knew they were wrong. They were warriors. This was the first thing every child of the Empire learned. They were born to fight, to conquer, to rule. Their history was written in the blood of 100 species that had stood in their way. Supreme Warlord stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the blue and green world spinning below. New Geneva, a human colony, 12 million humans living their small, peaceful lives, never knowing that death had come for them. "Sir," said his tactical officer, "the humans are transmitting. They request dialogue. They want to discuss our presence through proper diplomatic channels." Laughed. It was a harsh sound like metal scraping against stone. "Of course they do. Humans always want to talk. They talk while their enemies sharpen their blades. They talk while their worlds burn. They will still be talking when we land troops in their capital." What should I tell them? The Supreme Warlord considered the question. He could simply ignore the transmission. He could proceed with his plans and let history record another easy victory. But where was the pleasure in that? No, he wanted the galaxy to see this. He wanted every species to understand what happened to those who were too weak to defend themselves. "Open a channel," he said. "Broadcast on all frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." His words went out across the sector. Ships of a dozen species picked up the transmission. Recording stations captured every word. The galaxy watched. "People of New Geneva," announced, his voice booming with contempt, "your time here is ended. This world now belongs to the Empire. You have 1 standard hour to begin evacuation. Those who remain will be treated as enemies of the Empire." The human response came quickly. A woman's voice, calm and professional. "This is Governor Sarah of New Geneva. We do not recognize your claim to our world. We request immediate mediation through the Council of 12. We ask that you withdraw your forces while diplomatic solutions are explored." Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You request, you ask, you explore diplomatic solutions. Tell me, human, do you ever fight? Does your species even remember how?" A pause, then the governor's voice, still calm but now with an edge of steel beneath the surface. "We remember. We choose not to." "Then you are fools. You are a species of servants, of slaves waiting for masters. The galaxy has no place for those who cannot defend themselves. Your ancestors conquered your world through strength. You have forgotten that strength. You have become soft, weak, broken. We are none of those things. Prove it, leaned forward in his command chair. Fight us. Show the galaxy that humans are more than talking pets, or accept your place and crawl away like the insects you are. Silence stretched across the communication channel. Waited. He knew what would come. Another plea for negotiation. Another pathetic attempt at diplomacy. Humans were predictable in their cowardice. But Governor surprised him. One day, she said quietly, you will regret this. All of you will regret this. And on that day, you will remember that we gave you every chance. We tried everything else first. Laughed again. Threats from a human, how amusing, your hour begins now. He cut the transmission and turned to his fleet commanders. They will not fight. They will try to evacuate their precious civilians. Let them. Let them run. Let the galaxy see humans fleeing before the like prey before predators, and when their hour is up, sorry, burn it all. The hour passed slowly. Human evacuation ships launched from the surface, packed with civilians desperately trying to escape. The let them go. A few thousand escaped, not nearly enough. When the hour ended, gave the order. His fleet opened fire. The bombardment lasted 16 hours. They took their time. They destroyed the major cities first, then the smaller settlements, then anything that might shelter survivors. They turned forests into ash. They boiled lakes into steam. They cracked the crust of the planet until magma flowed across the surface. 12 million humans died. 12 million voices silenced. 12 million lives ended because one warlord wanted to prove a point. Governor Sarah was among them. She had refused to leave her people. Her last transmission was picked up by a fleeing transport ship. Tell my mother, she said, her voice breaking as fire consumed the world around her. Tell Ambassador that I am proud to be human. Tell her that we did not break. Tell her. The transmission ended in static. Ordered his communications officer to broadcast footage of the devastation. Every species with receivers saw the burning world. Every species saw the might of the Empire. And every species saw humanity's response to the greatest attack their people had ever suffered. Silence. For 3 days, no human ship transmitted. No human diplomat spoke. The human delegation walked out of the council chambers without a word and did not return. When other species tried to contact human space, they received only automated responses. The galaxy grew nervous. Even found himself watching his sensors, waiting for the human response. Surely they would condemn the attack. Surely they would demand sanctions and reparations. Surely they would do something. But the silence continued. On the diplomatic station, alien ambassadors gathered and whispered among themselves. What were the humans doing? Why were they not responding? Even the weakest species made some noise when attacked. This silence was unnatural. This silence was frightening. Elder sat alone in his chambers, watching reports of human space. His old hearts beat slowly in his chest. He had seen this before, long ago, the silence before a storm. They are coming, he said to no one. May the gods help us all. In human space, the morning had begun. But it was not the morning of a defeated people. It was the morning of a people preparing for war. In the quiet of their grief, something ancient was awakening, something that humanity had tried for 300 years to keep sleeping. Ambassador sat in her office, holding a picture of her daughter in. Her tears had dried hours ago. Now there was only a cold, empty place where her heart used to be. A message appeared on her screen. One word that would change the galaxy forever. Prometheus. Closed her eyes. She had prayed this day would never come. She had worked her entire life to prevent it, but now it was here, and she knew exactly what she had to do. She pressed a button on her console. Begin the protocol, wake them all up. Yes, Ambassador, should I inform the council? Looked at the picture one last time. Her daughter's smile, her laughter, gone forever. No, she said, let them find out for themselves. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's darkest secret. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Presidents and prime ministers passed down knowledge of it like a sacred burden. Military commanders spoke of it in whispers, hoping they would never receive the order to activate it. The protocol was simple. It was the answer to a question humanity had asked itself for 300 years. What happens when peace fails? What happens when diplomacy ends? What happens when our enemies finally go too far? The answer was already built, hidden in asteroid belts and hollowed moons, concealed in shipyards that officially produced cargo vessels, stored in weapons vaults that did not appear on any map. Humanity had been preparing for this day since the first alien laughed at a human diplomat. Admiral Way stood on the bridge of the HSS Prometheus, the first of the hidden dreadnoughts. The ship was enormous, larger than anything the galaxy had seen. Its weapons could crack planets. Its engines could outrun anything flying. Its armor could withstand the firepower of an entire fleet. And there were hundreds more just like it. Admiral, said his executive officer, all ships report ready. The fleet is assembled. Way nodded slowly. He was an old man. He had spent his life hoping this moment would never come. Now that it had, he felt nothing but cold purpose. How many ships in total? 7,843 combat vessels, sir, plus support ships and troop transports. The number was staggering. The entire galactic community had believed humanity possessed perhaps 300 warships. They had been wrong by a factor of 25. What about the new weapons, the ones from the deep research programs? Deployed across the fleet, sir. They have never seen anything like them. Nobody has. Way allowed himself a small, grim smile. For 3 centuries, humanity's minds had worked in secret. They had studied every weapon used by every species in the galaxy. Then they had built something better, something terrifying. The galaxy thought humans were peaceful. They were right. Humans preferred peace. But that did not mean humans had forgotten how to make war. On Earth, President James addressed the United Human Assembly. The chamber was packed. Every representative from every human world had come. The air was thick with grief and anger. 3 days ago, the president began, his voice heavy with emotion, the Empire murdered 12 million of our people. 12 million innocent men, women, and children, burned alive on a world they had built with their own hands. He paused. The silence was absolute. For 300 years, we have tried to be good neighbors. We have accepted insults. We have endured attacks. We have chosen peace again and again, hoping that our example would teach the galaxy that there is a better way. His hands gripped the podium. We were wrong. A murmur passed through the chamber. Not wrong to seek peace, never wrong to try diplomacy first, but wrong to believe that peace could be maintained through patience alone, wrong to think that kindness would be met with kindness, wrong to imagine that our restraint would be seen as anything but weakness. President looked out at the assembled representatives. He saw their faces, he saw their pain, he saw their fury. They have taught us a lesson. It is a lesson we should have learned long ago. Peace must be earned. Peace must be defended. And when our enemies refuse to give us peace, he let the words hang in the air. Then we will give them war. The chamber erupted. Representatives who had spent their careers arguing for diplomacy stood and cheered. People who had never held a weapon in their lives called for blood. 300 years of swallowed pride came pouring out in a single moment of unified rage. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, the species spoke with one voice. No more patience, no more tolerance, no more mercy for those who showed them none. War. Ambassador stood on the bridge of the HSS Reckoning as the ship left dock. She had been offered a place in the government, a chance to help coordinate the diplomatic aftermath of what was coming. She had refused. "I need to be there," she told President. "I need to watch them burn." The president had understood. His own had died on New Geneva. He knew the cold fire that burned in his heart. Now she stood among warriors, a diplomat surrounded by weapons. The crew treated her with careful respect. They knew who she was. They knew what she had lost. They knew that her presence meant this war was not just military but personal. "Ambassador," said Captain, the ship's commander, "we're receiving final orders from Admiral Way." "What do they say?" "We jump in 12 hours. 18 battle groups will enter space simultaneously. No warning, no demands, no mercy." Nodded. Part of her, the part that had spent 40 years seeking peaceful solutions, screamed in protest. War was failure. War was horror. War was everything she had worked to prevent. But another part of her, older and colder, whispered something different. Sometimes war was justice. Sometimes war was necessary. Sometimes war was the only language your enemy understood. "Captain," she said, "do you know why they call it the Prometheus Protocol?" "No, Ambassador." In human mythology, Prometheus was a god who stole fire from heaven and gave it to humanity. Fire that could warm us. Fire that could cook our food. Fire that could light the darkness. She looked out at the assembled fleet. Ship after ship after ship. More firepower than the galaxy had ever seen gathered in one place. But fire can also burn. And now they will learn what happens when they make humanity angry enough to share that fire with the stars. The 12 hours passed like heartbeats. Across human space, ships finished their preparations. Weapons were loaded. Engines were primed. Soldiers wrote final letters to their families. And then, at the appointed moment, the human fleet vanished into hyperspace. 7,000 warships, moving as one, toward an enemy that had no idea what was coming. The awakening was complete. The sleeping giant had opened its eyes. Now came the reckoning. Supreme Warlord was enjoying his evening meal when the first reports arrived. He read them 3 times, certain there was some mistake. 18 human battle groups, he said, his voice rising with disbelief. At our borders, simultaneously. "Yes, Supreme Warlord," said his aide, trembling slightly. "They appeared from hyperspace 4 minutes ago. They have not transmitted any demands. They are not responding to our communications." "How many ships?" "Early estimates suggest approximately 7,000. Dropped his eating utensil. The metal clattered against his plate. 7,000 ships. The humans supposedly had 300. Either his intelligence services had failed catastrophically, or this was some kind of elaborate trick. "Show me." The tactical display flickered to life. Red dots representing forces. Blue dots representing human ships. So many blue dots. They filled the border regions like a spreading infection. "This is impossible," muttered. "Where did they hide so many vessels? How did they build them without anyone knowing?" "Supreme Warlord, what are your orders?" Straightened his spine. He was a warrior. He had fought countless battles. He had never known defeat. These humans might have more ships than expected, but ships alone did not win wars. Warriors won wars, and there were the finest warriors in the galaxy. "Send the Third Fleet to engage. Let them test these human forces. I suspect many of those ships are drones or decoys. The humans are trying to frighten us. Show them that the do not frighten." The order went out. The Third Fleet, 800 warships commanded by Admiral, moved to intercept the nearest human battle group. The battle lasted 4 minutes. 4 minutes. In that time, 800 warships were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Admiral's flagship vanished in a flash of light so bright it blinded sensors across the sector. The human fleet did not slow down. They did not stop to collect survivors. They simply continued their advance as if nothing had happened. Stared at the tactical display, his blood running cold. What weapons are they using? Unknown, Supreme Warlord. Our analysts cannot identify the energy signatures. The humans appear to be using technology we have never encountered. That is impossible. We have studied human technology. It is inferior to ours. Apparently, Supreme Warlord, they had technology they did not share. The realization struck like a physical blow. The humans had been hiding, not just ships, but weapons. Not just weapons, but entire technological capabilities. For 300 years, they had shown the galaxy one face while building something completely different behind it. He had mocked them for being weak. He had laughed at their diplomacy. He had believed their patience was cowardice. He had been a fool. "Send everything," he ordered, his voice no longer steady. "Every fleet, every ship. We must stop them before they reach our core worlds." The Empire mobilized for total war. Thousands of ships gathered from across their territory. They formed defensive lines around their most important systems. They prepared to fight as they had always fought, with courage and strength and the certainty of victory. The humans swept them aside like dust before a hurricane. Battle after battle ended the same way. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. Their weapons cut through armor like light through darkness. Their tactics were unlike anything seen before, combining ancient human military traditions with technologies that seemed almost magical. And they showed no mercy. They were used to wars with rules. When you defeated an enemy, you took prisoners. You negotiated surrenders. You absorbed territory and populations. War was brutal, yes, but it had limits. The humans did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They destroyed military targets and moved on, leaving shattered fleets in their wake. They were not fighting a war. They were conducting an execution. Ambassador watched from the Bridge of the Reckoning as another defense station crumbled into fragments. "Casualties?" she asked. "None, Ambassador," reported Captain. "They cannot hit us. Their weapons simply do not reach us." Nodded. The human shield technology was another secret the galaxy had not known about. Weapons fire splashed harmlessly against invisible barriers, while human weapons punched through alien armor as if it did not exist. "How long until we reach there?" "At current speed, 17 hours. 17 hours. In 17 hours, humanity would stand above the heart of the Empire. In 17 hours would face the consequences of his choices." Thought about her daughter. Her 12 million voices silenced because one warlord wanted to prove that humans were weak. "Increase speed," she said. "Ambassador." "I said increase speed. 17 hours is too long." The fleet accelerated. Behind them, the Empire crumbled. Defense stations fell. Military installations burned. Shipyards that had built vessels for 8,000 years were reduced to twisted metal. Across the galaxy, other species watched in stunned horror. The humans they had mocked, the species they had dismissed as harmless, was tearing apart one of the most powerful empires in known space. And they were doing it easily, almost casually, as if there were nothing more than an obstacle to be removed. Elder sat in his chambers and wept. He had warned them. He had told them not to push the humans too far. Now it was too late. Now the storm had come, and all anyone could do was pray it passed them by. The human fleet reached Prime in 11 hours. They had not stopped to rest. They had not paused to celebrate their victories. They had simply kept coming, relentless, unstoppable, driven by a cold fury that frightened every species watching. Supreme Warlord stood on the surface of his and looked up at the sky filled with human warships. His once mighty fleet was gone. His defensive stations were debris. His empire lay in ruins around him. He had wanted to teach the humans a lesson about strength. They had taught him one instead. The throne room of the empire had stood for 8,000 years. Its walls were covered with the banners of conquered species. Its floors were stained with the blood of countless ceremonies. Its very stones remembered the screams of the defeated. Now it remembered silence. Supreme Warlord knelt in the center of the room, surrounded by human soldiers. His armor was gone. His weapons were taken. The great warrior who had burned New Geneva was on his knees like a common prisoner. Ambassador walked slowly toward him. Her footsteps echoed in the empty chamber. The banners above rustled in an unfelt wind, as if the ghosts of conquered peoples were watching. "Stand up," she said. Raised his head. His eyes, once burning with arrogance, now held nothing but defeat. "You will kill me now, human. Make it quick. I am tired." "Stand up," repeated. "Warriors of your rank should face their consequences on their feet." Slowly, painfully rose. He towered over the human woman, twice her height and 3 times her weight. Once he could have killed her with a single blow. Now he could barely meet her eyes. "Say it," he growled. "Say whatever you came to say, gloat, threaten, promise horrible vengeance. I have heard it all before from the species we conquered." Studied him for a long moment. She thought about her daughter, about the burning world, about the 12 million voices that would never speak again. She felt the cold fire in her heart that demanded blood and pain and endless suffering. And then she let it go. "I did not come here to gloat," she said quietly. "I came here to deliver a message." "What message?" "The war is over. Your military is destroyed. Your empire is dissolved. Your conquered species are free. Your worlds are intact, your civilians unharmed. You will face trial for the murder of 12 million human beings, but your people will survive." Stared at her in confusion. You are not going to destroy us after what I did." "No." "Why? You have the power. You have proven that you can do anything you want. Why show mercy to those who showed you none?" Moved closer, close enough that she could smell the fear on him. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because that is what makes us different from you." She stepped back and addressed the room, knowing her words were being broadcast across the galaxy. "For 300 years, humanity tried to be good neighbors. We accepted insults. We endured attacks. We chose peace because we believed that peace was stronger than war. We were right about that. We were wrong to think that peace could be maintained through patience alone." Her voice grew harder. 12 million of our people died because the galaxy believed humanity was weak, because one warlord wanted to prove that kindness was cowardice. He was wrong. Kindness is strength, patience is discipline, and mercy, even now, even after everything, is what separates us from those who hurt us. She turned back to, "You will remember this day. Your children will remember it, you will remember it. And you will teach them this lesson. Humanity endures. Humanity forgives. But humanity, pushed too far, will show you just how terrible our strength can be. And then," she finished, "we will show you mercy, because that is who we are, that is who we choose to be." The galaxy watched in stunned silence. In the council chambers, alien delegates sat frozen in their seats. They had expected vengeance. They had expected humanity to become what it had defeated, to claim the empire for themselves, to begin building their own age of conquest. Instead, the humans were walking away. Over the following months, humanity proved that their words were not empty. The empire was dissolved, its territory distributed among the species it had once conquered, and his commanders faced trial for their crimes, judged by a court of all species, and sentenced to imprisonment rather than death. Humanity took nothing for themselves except reparations, not territory, not resources, not power, just payment for the lives lost on New Geneva, money that was used to build a memorial station where the colony had once stood. Ambassador returned to the Council of 12. She walked into the chamber she had left in silent fury, and took the seat that had been humanity for 300 years. No one objected. "We did not want this war," she told the assembled delegates. "We did everything in our power to prevent it, but when war came, we showed you what humanity is capable of. Now let us show you what we prefer to do." She looked around the room at faces filled with fear and uncertainty. "We prefer peace. We prefer cooperation. We prefer to be your friends, your partners, your allies. We prefer to build rather than destroy, to heal rather than harm, to lift others up rather than push them down." Her voice softened. "We are still the same species we were before New Geneva. We still believe in diplomacy. We still believe in kindness. We still believe that the future should be built on hope rather than fear. But we will never again be victims. We will never again accept attacks on our people without response. We will never again let the galaxy forget that behind our smiles and our negotiations and our endless patience lies a species that has looked into the darkness of its own soul and emerged stronger." She rose to her feet. "So here is my offer to you all. Work with us. Trade with us. Let us build a future together where no species needs to fear its neighbors. Let us prove that strength and kindness can exist side by side. Or test us again," her eyes swept the room, "and learn why no species should ever forget the moment humanity's tolerance finally shattered." The decades that followed saw a transformation in galactic politics. Humanity became something unprecedented. They were feared, yes. The memory of what they had done to the never faded, but they were also loved. Human ships responded to distress calls. Human diplomats mediated disputes. Human resources flowed to struggling species. Parents across 1,000 worlds told their children stories about the humans. "Be kind to them," they said. "They will forgive almost anything. They will help you when you need help. They will defend you when you are weak. But never, ever push them too far. Never make them remember what they are capable of. Never force them to show the galaxy their fire again." Elder lived long enough to see the new age take shape. On his deathbed, surrounded by family, he smiled at the thought of the humans. "I told them," he whispered, "I told them not to push too far." His last words were a warning and a blessing, passed down through his species for generations. Be grateful for human patience, and pray it never shatters again. The galaxy listened, the galaxy remembered, and no species ever forgot.